I don't buy into the philosophy where like, no, if you're true to your craft and you want to be a dancer, you should not get a regular job. And I say, BS. Who says that?
Yeah.
I'd get off the plane at 6 a.m. and go right to work. I did that for the longest time, and I was able to do that. I'm in a position where I don't need to dance. I don't need that. I wanted to have insurance and a 401k, and I like that. At 60, I'm done. I'm quitting.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to a Versatile podcast, Legends and Legacy. Today we have the one and only Hugo, A.K.A. Mr. Smooth. Hugo, Mr. Smooth, I just have to say I am just honored to have you in the room with us. I have known you for like more than 20 years now, but to connect with you
It's
on
been
this
that long.
level, I seriously
Wow.
connect with you on this level, it's honestly an honor because I've seen through my lens and my perspective how much you have done for the culture and the dance, but I want to give everybody an opportunity to hear more about your story, your origin story, and what you've done throughout your time in this dance.
Thank
So,
you.
again, thank you. Thank you so
No,
much
no,
for
no.
just being available for
The
us.
honor is mine. Thank you so much for inviting, and I appreciate you and Jackie and Precise for inviting me. Thank you.
Yes, yes. So let's get to it. The first question, I'm just because I'm gonna nerd out with you. What's your origin story? How did you embark in popping and waving? What sparked you to be like, this is something I want to start doing?
I don't. It wasn't. Well, nothing's by accident, but like I wasn't a dancer, like I mentioned before, that I didn't grow up in a dancing family whatsoever.
Hmm.
I had to get. I had some friends that I went to school with. They're a little bit older than me. I'll try to make it as short as possible. They were always into something, and my parents knew them. My parents were kind of strict, so I didn't really get to go out too much or anything like that. I was a nerd. I was at home. I used to draw. I've been drawing since I was a kid. My my goal was to be an artist, which I am, but that's what my parents saw. These guys would come down the street. They lived a couple blocks down, and they said they'd always like introduce something new that was going on. And I remember them saying, "Hey, it's the disco phase. Disco's going on." So they would take me to their house and say, "Put a coat on me." And I don't know if you guys remember, history-wise, that's a whole nother dance thing. Like the Latinos had this whole disco scene, not in the Hollywood scene. It was more like out in like Whittier and El Monte, places like that.
Okay.
They put a jacket on me and you wore jeans and you had people with pompadours and they were doing this disco stuff and they would take me to disco parties, backyard parties. There was stuff at a place that's still there. It's called the uh, it's what is it? The sports arena, the Rio Hondo Sports Arena or something like that.
Okay. Okay.
And they would have disco parties, crazy big disco parties with DJs and stuff. Anyway, would go over there, would just watch, would just watch because I didn't know how to dance. And then the next time they came around, they said, "Hey, there's this stuff going on. It's funk music." And one of their cousins was a DJ, and they would take me to these funk things. And I just still remember the same day they came down. They came down to my parents' house, and they said, "Check this out. There's this new dance that they're doing, and it's called popping."
Okay.
And they showed me they sat at the end of the driveway, and the disco was just like checking out. It wasn't anything that sparked anything. It was just something to do. And when they came, I still remember it was Daryl and Brian. They were brothers, and they did a tick wave.
Okay.
They did a little just a pop step like this, and then they did the moonwalk and a backslide. And I was just like, wow. And honestly, that started everything for me. I kind of secretly, uh, when I say this, it kind of just everything around me blew up. This is pre-high school. So like
Wow.
I was just going along the following the way of like my brothers and other friends that they were doing football. So I signed up for football pre-high school. It was all that Hell Week and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I was signed up, but then this popping thing came around, and like everywhere I went, you saw people, mainly Latinos in the area where I grew up, and it's like everybody was trying to pop, and you saw it on TV and videos, and it was like it was almost like it was a race to see who could be a better popper than the other person. It was
Okay.
almost like a disease that spread everywhere you went.
Wow. Okay.
And then by the time I got to school, I was so like kind of getting into it, but secretly nobody saw me pop. I was just trying and learning. And we would go to some places around town, La Puente. There was some dances and some people, some get-togethers. There was a lot of roller rinks where people would pop. And then by the time I got to high school, I actually quit football. I wasn't interested, and I just wanted to kind of learn this popping thing.
Hmm.
And it just kept going and going and going. And we can go past this question and go on how it progressed from there. But
Yeah. Yeah.
from there,
Please.
it just blew up. I just try to like learn it, every
Okay.
good
So
trail ever.
then how did you transition to find, like, let's just say, the EBs or the waivers, and like really dive into the community?
So what happened? I went to school in Santa Fe Springs, so Santa Fe
Okay.
High School, and it's majority Latino,
Hmm.
and then you had some whites, Latino, and then small bit of blacks. So when everybody was trying to learn popping, the rumor was that, hey, these two black guys just moved to our area and they were going to our school. Okay, and this was something like this. The word was like, bro, it's crazy. It was You had all these different grades. So like by
Yeah.
first before first period, sorry, somebody said like, yeah, these guys are crazy. They got like these jackets with the old English lettering on the back.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And they were saying these stories like this one guy's bones were popping out and it was crazy. And this other guy was like popping and their Jerry curls were like shaking. And I'm like, oh my God, who are these guys? He goes, they're incredible. And they moved to Norwalk. And it was the Houston brothers. It was Larry Houston and Ricky Houston. And by the time I got to my last period of class, I sat down to my class and sits right next to me is the oldest brother, the main.
Okay.
And they were in a group called the Twilight Poppers. And when he sat down, I was just kind of like, hey, and he had the jacket on, and it's like, you pop? And I don't know what happened from then. We became kind of friends, and one thing led to another. And he said, if you want to, he kind of said it in his gangster, come down to the house and check us out and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, before I knew it, I was at their house in the living room and they were showing me their stuff. And Ricky, the younger brother, was like super, super nice. And he would show me tick waving. And then my brother was older. He had a car. So anybody who had a car in LA, you gravitated towards that.
Yep.
And he
Yep.
had
Hmm.
speakers and we would go to, oh God, we go to Knott's Berry Farm and we take these guys with us.
Okay.
And we went to other schools at lunchtime, and that's when you had breakout sessions. And my brother would open up the car and jam like Rick James or something, and we would get out and pop and mainly show off those guys
Got you.
because it was like, look what we have. We
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
guys that can get down.
Yeah.
And shamefully, we had them. I was having them call out people and battle people and stuff like that. And that's where that started, and that was throughout high school.
Okay.
And just a little bit of an insert there is that right before I met them, Boogaloo Shrimp was very frequently going around the different high schools too. He would go to
Okay.
lunch hours. He would go down to Pioneer High School, which is a high school down the street, and he made friends with some people over there because Shrimp will tell you he hung out with a lot of Latino people
Okay. All right.
and ended up being like another cousin of my teachers. They were my teachers. Boogaloo Daryl, he came to our high school too, and he was really good. He's where I got my waving influence from. He was like very loose, and I still remember to this day there was a party in Santa Fe Springs, and Shrimp came, and Daryl and him battled, and it was like a
Wow.
crazy battle.
Wow.
It was
I
super
bet
super. I
that
mean, there was no
was.
cameras, you
Yeah.
couldn't see
No.
it,
Yeah.
but it was insane. And
Wow.
so we have a little bit of history. I actually met Shrimp before I met anybody else, or I knew of him.
Okay.
And then came the Taco era. That's how I met Taco first, which we can stop there. I can tell you a story about Taco, how we kind of sort of met, but then met afterwards, and how that whole history started.
Okay. Before we get into how you met Taco, when did you get your AKA and how did you get your AKA, Mr. Smooth?
My AKA didn't come till um when I met Sugar Pop. Actually, it was when we went on
Oh, okay.
tour. So they didn't know back in the day. You didn't name yourself. I got to tell everybody, you didn't name yourself. Somebody named you, and that's just the way it worked. But doesn't mean it has to stay that way. But so it was funny. It was Shabadoo, Sugar Pop, and they're all talking about what do we name him? And Shabadoo was trying to give me some name like Zod, and I'm like, that's weird. I don't want to be Zod. That's the guy from the Superman movie. And then Sugar Pop just said like, man, you're smooth. You just wave smooth, and it was actually smooth at first. And then I remember I did uh, I did a movie, and for some reason they had me do a voiceover for the movie, and they gave me a jacket, and it said Smooth. And then on Lionel Richie's tour, they gave me a tour jacket, and it said Smooth. But I never used it. I just had it. Like
Oh
it's like they
wow.
called me Hugo, and they just said, "That's my." I would tell my daughters like I didn't use that name until later on when I started traveling doing judge things. They say, "Do you have like an AKA?" And I'm like, "You can say Smooth or Mr. Smooth." And most Europeans would say, well, used to call me I remember Bruce from Adjusted Boo. It was either Popping Hugo, Mr. Hugo, or it was Smooth. And I just said, call me what you want. Use one of those
Got
titles
you.
if you want to. And that's where it
Love it, love it. So looking back, because your resume is long. You've done commercials, you've done motion pictures, you've done world tours, music videos, and then you've done judging and performing and battling. Um, what would you say? And I'll say more of this working with an icon artist because again, your resume is like working with Michael Jackson. What would you say is like a memorable moment for you in the motion picture or even on stage on tour with one of these icons, musicians, celebrities?
Michael, I'll say first off the top of my head, like Michael was just probably the pinnacle. That was like the peak to watch somebody that can he Michael and Lionel Richie, I felt like when people asked me like how were you guys treated, how was it like? I said we were like the specialty kids. Nobody told us like don't do this or like scolding. I felt like we were treated special compared to the jazz dancers. The jazz dancers were just like the normal guys. We were like these specialty guys that were always like the cool kids. Like even with
Right.
Lionel Richie, I remember he would tell his manager or somebody like, take my. He would call us our guys. He goes, take my guys shopping, and I would tell people, oh, they would meet us and take us on a certain Saturday. We'd go to Fred Siegel's on Melrose and take us
Wow.
shopping. If we're
Wow.
in New York, he goes, take my boys shopping. They need some new clothes, and they would take us to like Greenwich Village and take us shopping for expensive stuff
Yeah, yeah, no,
that I
for
probably
sure.
still have somewhere in my wardrobe case. I'd probably never wear it again
I
because
bet,
it's
yeah.
kind of
Uh-huh.
outdated.
Uh-huh.
But stuff like that, like Michael, I think for Michael, I tell you meet people that are famous and you say, I don't know if they're ever going to remember me again.
Yeah.
But like, I remember that before when we did Captain EO, we met him briefly and, danced with him and stuff like that. So I figured like, he probably doesn't remember me. But then I remember when we went to go, Taco and I got like a private audition. There was an audition. It was a cattle call audition for I want to say it was Smooth Criminal, and I have photos of this with Jazzy J and Terry Bixler and a bunch of different people,
Wow.
and it was out here in the valley. And I remember we took a picture on this Bob's Big Boy afterwards, like everybody was out there, Anthony
That's right
Thomas,
here.
yeah.
Wow.
But we went inside. Taco and I got there, and it's like, oh my God, there's a ton of people in here. And then we looked inside, and we saw the guy that was filming worked with Michael,
Mhm.
and we said, "Do you remember us from Captain Neo?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he was so cool about it. He kind of said something like, "You want me to kick everybody out and get you guys a private?" And if you ever see that video on YouTube that shows me and Taco with high hair,
Yes, yes. Uh-huh.
that's that audition. So he
Wow.
kicked everybody out, and I felt kind of bad, but I was kind of like Sean at that point. We're like young, we get to
Yeah.
go in and have a private audition instead of a cattle call, and he kicked us out, and we danced, and then somebody told me later on, I think it was Casper when he was working with Michael. And they said, oh, when Michael's looking at all the audition tapes, he mentioned, he goes, oh, there's Taco and Hugo. And I was like, oh, you remembered me. So it's kind of cool that he
Yeah.
remembered. So
Yeah,
that's how
yeah.
we did. So that I remember that, but also after that, I was all said and done. I went on to work with somebody else. It was Jellybean Benitez from New York. He was a producer, and we happened to be in. We had just arrived to Tokyo, and we stayed at the Tokyo hotel. And as I arrived, um, I'd already finished doing everything that I've done with Michael, and I was one of the dancers. We started walking in the parking lot, and we saw this limo go by, and all these people coming, just like you would see on TV, like a
Mm-hmm.
paparazzi type thing, and
Mm-hmm.
girls with signs. And I'm like, who the heck is that? And they pull up into the same hotel, and we're looking. I'm like, who is that? And I couldn't see Michael, but I can see Bill Bray, which was his bodyguard at the time.
Okay.
And I looked and I said, that's Michael. And he's staying at our hotel. And my friend was like, oh, you got to introduce me. You got to introduce me. And I'm like, I don't know if he'll remember me. And he goes, I go, all right, let's go give it a shot. So I went. And I said, "Hey, Bill." And he goes, "Hey, what's up?" And I said, "Was that Michael?" And he goes, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And I go, "Is there any way I can say hi?" Or, and he says, "Hold on." And he flipped those flip phones back then, flipped his phone, walked away, called. He goes, "Come on." And we went upstairs, and my friend was just freaking out. And he had the whole top floor. And the fact that he just remembered me and he was okay with it, and two things about that. Like, first of all, when I saw them, there was a bunch of Japanese press in his whole suite. It was like they were doing
Damn.
fittings with clothes and pictures and stuff. Turned around and he gave me the biggest hug, and I was like, man. And I was smart. I had my own camera because Michael always had a photographer. I can't remember his name right now, but uh, Michael always had the photographer take pictures, and then if he liked them, they would send them to you. But you weren't allowed to
Okay.
do it. So I was kind of like, is it okay if I take a pic before we leave? And he's like, sure. So I was like, gave the Japanese person my camera,
Nice.
took a picture, and said, just want to leave you. Just wanted to say hello. And then, but so to me, in that era, just to know that a big megastar would remember me, at
Yes,
least
yes.
leave it that much to let me say hi. I thought that was special.
Absolutely. And this is at the time too, again, like you said, where you all were treated, let's just say extra special compared to the jazz dancers, right? You guys would dance in front or you would be the main attraction,
Yeah, we were the specialty
the
dancers, I think.
specialty.
That's what I would call us, yeah. I think
Okay.
we always were, even street dancers, back dancers, or specialty dancers,
Hmm.
you know.
How was it working in the, because I know again, I'm gonna have to put it out, like working in the movies, I'll say specifically Breaking, like Breaking Part Two, correct?
Breaking two. So I was in Spain when they did Breaking. I was
Okay.
working with, I got a gig with Jeff Kutash, who did
Uh-huh.
Splash in Las Vegas. This is pre-Splash. He did these shows going around where he had a show in South Africa where Freeze was doing that one. And then we auditioned for the one in Spain. So I had to do like 3 months in Spain for that show. And a little bit of I was like 18 years old, first time out of the country.
Wow.
My parents were just kind of like, okay, you can go.
Yeah, yeah.
And I had met Taco already, so I was talking to Sugar Pop and Taco while I was there, and I was kind of bummed because it was a variety show, but it was just like a regular show. We did 2 shows a night,
Okay.
and kind of like what you see in Vegas now.
Okay.
It's a small version of it. But if have any knowledge about Jeff Kutash, his shows are always the same. They would have locking, popping, whatever's the new gig, they would do dance, they would put it in there, whacking, everything.
Okay.
So I would talk to Taco or make phone calls from Spain and how's it going over there? And he's like, oh, you know, we're doing this movie Breaking and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, I want to go. And he's like, yeah, we're filming. Is there any way you can come down here? And it's like, I can't. I'm stuck.
Yeah.
And then the one that kind of when I finally actually did do something, I hope Jeff doesn't watch this. If he is like, so we were on contract for a month or so much time. I think it was a month or something like that, or 3 months. And then they said that with an option if the show was doing good and they can pick us up for another several months and I'd be stuck. Well, Sugar Pop was calling me saying, bro, there's this situation that happened on Lionel Richie's tour and Shrimp and Shabadoo and them quit. And like, I'm on there with his brother Jason and his cousin Sly. I said, man, I need you, bro. I need you. You should come down. And I'm like, so I started kind of sucking on the show, like kind of not doing so good. Like I didn't want it to get picked up again,
Uh-huh.
basically.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know if I've ever told anybody that. So I started like kind of just not doing my best, and it
Got you.
didn't get
Okay.
picked up. And I went back home, and I got on the Lionel Richie tour, and I actually got on the Lionel Richie tour to take the place of Sugar Pop's younger brother Jason, rest in peace,
Mhm.
because he was still had to go back to school, and he couldn't go to Canada. So I took over for him um, to take over for Canada. And then we got back to the States, and then Sly, he had a death in the family, so he had to go back to Hawaii. So I took his spot for a little while. Unfortunately for Sly, is like the time that I was in on the show, Lionel had a bunch of people and his managers and people that were, I don't know, part of the financial part of the tour, like watching the shows that I was in. And they came back and they said, they told Sugar Pop and Demita, hey, Lionel, they want the show like this. They want it with Hugo in it, and it's
Mm.
got to stay that way. And then, so I stayed in the show, and Albert didn't get called back. And then it changed again because um, I think Jason had to go back to school and he couldn't stay on the tour. And Taco was on the original tour, and they kind of left on like we're quitting because we want to go do other jobs, and they weren't too happy. Brenda Ritchie, which was Lionel's wife, wasn't too happy about it. So I kind of had to beg to get Taco back in the show.
Wow.
And Demita
Okay.
said, like, are you sure he's not going to bail again? I said, he's in. So I got Taco back in the show. So then it was myself, Taco, and Sugar Pop for the tail end of the tour. Yeah.
Got you. Listening to your stories and the origin and this is at the time where popping and waving and locking and breaking is just like a world phenomenon in terms of the dance. Did you realize that at the time, or were you just going with the flow, living in the present moment? Like, did you realize, like, wow, I think this is something that's going to be epic, and this is something that we're going to do from years to come?
No, I look at it, I would describe it as, I would always say, like, at that time, especially from like when I turned 17 to 18, it became a roller coaster. Like, I felt like I was in the front of the roller coaster and you're just going.
Okay.
There's no thinking about, like, at that point when people say, "Did you train a lot? Did you do this?" I said, "It was like on the job training." We really did. We went to clubs and we trained and practiced as we were getting down at the club. We really didn't. We were lazy. A lot of people were lazy. I call it the lazy generation. No, we didn't go back and train for hours like the Koreans do and some of the
Yeah,
Japanese do.
yeah,
There's, it's this weird thing nowadays when people say, "Oh, they want to win and they want to be the best." I said, "Did you really put that much effort into it? Did you train like athletes do?"
hmm,
It's like, no, we just went. We were just going with what we had. That's why you saw it in its most purest and rawest form.
hmm,
That was just like what we were doing back then. And if we picked up on some other style or something, you saw somebody do something somewhere out of 100 people and say, "Oh," and it gets in your memory bank, and then you create, and you just try to keep going and going and going, and you don't think about anything besides getting the next gig, because there's a jump. It
yeah,
went from it's a cool, fun thing in the community and battling with people, and then we went to like, what did we want to do? Like, hey, Taco was the one that told me like, let me get you in with my agency, and then from then on, it was like go 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 go, and it was business,
hmm,
and
hmm,
it's like, there's a bunch of stories I can tell you about later on. People like saying like, "Oh, I want to battle you" and stuff like that. And I was like, already past that. Like, it
mm,
wasn't about that. This whole underground thing, which is beautiful and I love it, and that's what I've been doing for the last 20 plus years,
yeah,
because it's not Hollywood, it's not commercial and stuff like that.
yeah,
Um, but there was a period where it was like it was about business and working, and there were the workers and there were the non-workers. That's just what it was back then.
mm,
If you had a phone and communicated in a car and you can get to auditions on time, you're going to be a worker. And if you
mm,
didn't have a phone and you couldn't get there and you couldn't communicate well, it wasn't just about, even with an athlete, think about it. They could be the best athlete in the world, but if they're not good at business or don't have an agent,
sure,
they're not going to be on a team.
absolutely,
That's what it was back then, and we were just going and trying to get better at that. And if you
got you,
can if you can get along with them and you do your job, then you're good,
yeah.
and you're gonna work.
So I'm sure you saw a lot of people who were just mad talented, crazy talented, but they didn't have either that professionalism or that work ethic or the resources, a car, a phone.
I mean, you had okay, to show you what my picture looked like back
Yeah,
then. We would go to, I mean, it's still there. If you go to Long Beach at the Marina Pacifica, it's Acapulco now. It used to be El Paso Cantina. I was too young to get inside, so actually Taco and I were too young, so they had a dance contest every week, and the DJ Joe, you can go in to the restaurant, you can go through the kitchen, and you go through this staircase that goes right up to the DJ booth and go into the dance contest.
damn.
We would wait outside. They said, "Hold on, when it's time for us to go do our part," they would walk us up, we would dance, and we'd have to get escorted out because legally we're too young to be in there.
Wow.
And then we would have to wait outside and they go, "Hey," they come out and say, "You guys won. Here's your $150 or whatever." And then we
Damn.
would go eat. So, but when going up there every week, there was Robot Prince, and he'd come up and he'd want to show us like his whatever he was
Yeah,
doing new.
yeah.
Over here, we saw like a flat top. And not only there, different places. Everywhere we went, you'd see kind of like the regulars.
Okay.
If you go to Orange County, I'd run into this group, which a lot of people don't talk about. There's a group called Sterling Silver Dancers. They also had a different name. They were called Playground Poppers. They were kind of popular back then. They used to be everywhere I went to.
Hmm.
I'd always see them. Um, you would see shrimp, of course. Um, you would see. Uh, I knew because of the Inland Empire area. Like I got a glimpse of seeing like Mean Mr. Lean, um, the Groovatrons, that because they used to go to skate parties over in La Puente area. Um, So I kind of had seen that. And Venice Beach, you'd see, I saw like Daryl Stokes and certain people. I'm trying to think of others. I mean, I think if you think of all the people you know of right now,
Yeah.
I saw them around. The only person that I didn't see, and I've had this conversation with them, is because when I came up when I was 18, I just never saw Bob and Andre because I think he was in the military at that time. So he was
Okay.
gone.
Okay.
So either some people went to the military
Mm-hmm.
and then kind of like after a certain point, we were working, so we were making money,
Yeah.
and the people that weren't able to make money, you had no choice. You had to go get a regular life or get a job, and that's where you saw a lot of that.
Mm.
And there's a bigger picture, like you saw a resurgence of street dance in America. So I think some of the older generation said, "Hey, it's alive again.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
go jump back in and see if we can, show them we used to be a part of that and stuff like that."
Wow.
And there's nothing wrong with that. That's beautiful. They can all come in and everybody can see who used to
Yeah.
get down back in the
Yeah.
day,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know.
What do you think is the difference? And I know you kind of mentioned it when you were speaking, but what is the difference between the way people dance and get down back then when you were just growing up in the culture and the dance compared to now? How has this dance changed? Has it been, do you see it, have you seen it evolving in a good space, or are we losing the essence? What do you think, from the timeline of how you've been dancing throughout these
No,
years?
no, I think I'm a fan of it.
Okay.
I think it's gotten better. I think that there's certain people that have a certain what I consider magic in the dance.
Mhm.
Like you always saw like, man, that guy can hit really hard or pop really hard, or that guy, he waves so crazy, like he looks like he doesn't have bones in his body.
Mm.
I was always looking for that. There's something that makes it look different. I mean, you can move side to side and like this is cool, but somebody that has a little bit of a flair to it or
Yeah.
a bounce to it,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a specialty. There's something that makes it special.
Mhm.
It's like I can only liken it to like when you see a bunch of basketball players, but then you see like a Jordan, you actually got to know like that guy's special.
Yes. Yeah.
Let me put it. No, it's gotten better. Like I'll show you an example, and it happens. Myself and Kid Boogie would have conversation over the years, and I'd say, hey, there's this like I saw. Okay, see some of these what we call let's call it like athletes like these certain stars that I consider
Yeah.
stars
Yeah.
in street dance.
Yeah.
Okay,
For sure. Hmm.
so I remember when I judged freestyle session in Japan, and I've known Kite already. And years ago, I'd say like Kite's special. He's got a specialty and he shines, and he has.
Hmm.
He's shown that.
Hmm.
And then so Kite was used to doing these battles, and all of a sudden I saw this young kid, and he was I think 15 at the time, and it was Hojin, and I was like skinny, skinny little kid, does it, and then it's like and I remember I got my camera out and I started videotaping because I said this guy's got like some craziness about him. And I looked, and they had to go to like an overtime. I mean, a tiebreaker and this and that, and then he won. And after that, I just saw him just go up at that time, and he's done really well. But I see those things like I might not be as good as some of these guys, but I can see when somebody has something special.
Yeah.
So like him, and I remember I would tell people like Kite's dope. He's got a flair to him, and somebody will say from looking on camera or video, "Oh, he's all right. He's all right." I said, "I'm telling you."
No.
And
Yeah.
I
He is.
remember, and I won't say who it is. They remember went to Japan and they got like in a cipher with him, and then they messaged me afterward. Goes, "Hey, bro, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
dope." And I'm like, "I told you."
Yeah.
And then like I see other people come up, and it's like when I first saw Empty Pop, and I said I would tell people, "Oh, he's got something special because he's not just a popper. He knows music and he knows how to dance."
Yeah.
And I tell people, "Are you a popper or are you a dancer?"
Hmm.
And they'd say, "Oh, I'm a popper." I said, "No, you should be a dancer that can pop." It's like if you're a dancer, you should be able to do any type of dance.
Absolutely.
But I saw something different. Like he doesn't just pop; he knows the music, and he's blown up as you can see. And before I'd get some people might say like, "Oh no, he's all right. He does strutting and he just does like like a little bit of hip hop type of feeling." I said, "Watch, let him grow,
Yeah.
let him grow," and he
Yeah.
has. He's blossomed, and it's like
Yeah.
good for him, good for him. And
Absolutely.
as far as I know, we've had conversation. He's a very humble kid, and I wish him the best. And I wanted to communicate to him like be smart with your money, keep humble, keep your feet on the ground, and do the right thing, because I've seen so many people in my era just like waste money and not care about their lives and get involved in drugs and alcohol and stuff like that. And I said, just be careful, keep your head on, you know.
I couldn't agree 100%. Going back to, because I feel like you're saying like you've seen, sparks in certain individuals, especially you're speaking about like my time, my generation. Is it because you've recognized by looking at that through that lens when you were growing up in the dance? Like, I guess my question is, was everybody looking different your time, or was it? Let's be honest.
No, no,
Was it
no.
was
I
it the
know
way it
exactly where
is
you're getting
now?
at.
Like where it's like, okay, it's either this or it's this. You
No,
know what I mean?
so I was thinking about this the other day. Um, no, I've had people come to LA, they come frequently from
Yeah,
overseas and they come visit and they want a private lesson, this and that,
yeah.
and they're like, somebody that's never been here before, they go, I had the wrong impression of LA. I thought like that everybody would, when I got here, would be dancing like the EBs. And I'm like, where would you get that idea? And I said, everybody was different back then.
Mm-hmm.
And I liken it to like when we were in Geneva recently. Did you see the diversity of how everybody
Absolutely,
danced? It was
absolutely.
the same way in LA.
Gotcha.
There was no one style. Yeah, if you went to like the LA Boppers had a certain style. If you saw, like Robot Prince, he had the robotic bopping style. If you went down to Pomona, you'd see the very flowish kind of
Hmm.
wave style. Those were, but it was so different. Everybody was doing different things, you know. Um, yeah, if you were in the EB camp, you followed a certain structure, and that's what that was. But see, I gravitated toward Taco because Taco had the EB style, but then he also had a different thing because he didn't start with the EBs, and a lot of people don't know that he started roboting as a kid, and then
Okay.
he was with the Mysterious Poppers, so he was doing robotics and waving and snaking and stuff like that, and then he started learning from the EBs,
Okay.
and that's how his style came from. But Taco and I, we just loved all different type of styles, so we wanted to implement that. And 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 then there's a whole nother topic of like how movies have influenced people and
Hmm. Yeah.
videos and things like that. That's well known and documented. But no, I after thinking about it the other day and I got back from Geneva, I said, man, I said Europe's got to be the country that's most like LA because it's very diverse.
Yeah.
It's not it because we sat there. There's a bunch of different type of
Yes.
styles,
Yes.
but
Yes.
if you go to China, you're gonna majority see one style.
Yes. Yes.
Japan, majority one style. Korea maybe a little bit of different stuff now, but
Okay.
but China, you're gonna see like an army of the same style.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is crazy. And do you prefer, like, would you rather see more of diversity and or one simplicity of like them just mastering this one way of dancing?
No, I like the diversity, but it makes it hard. It makes it number one harder to judge.
Yeah.
It makes it hard pick your judges. I've had so many conversations with students and people that I know that are so frustrated because they
Absolutely.
don't win. And I said,
Yes.
you gotta pick your battles.
Yes.
If you're gonna go to a battle that's a big one, don't get pissed off. Look at the judges. I'm gonna tell you what the outcome's gonna be. And it's like even if you get one, even what I try to do at my event, a small plug of my event from years ago, how the West was
Please
won.
do. Yes, because
I
we will talk about
wanted
that.
I wanted to have one popper, one like maybe animation style, and one maybe like a more fluid boogaloo style.
Mhm.
Like, and we could talk about boogaloo as well if you want to go into that conversation. But that doesn't always work either. You're always going to get like, well, we don't like this guy, and it's like, but you have to make it as fair as possible, you know? But I tell people, hey, if you are going to just wait, people have gotten mad at me. I think I don't know if it was some event over here in the valley. I can't remember what it was. And I remember they said, if you're going to call it a popping battle, and I think this person, I'm not going to say who it was, he came up to me and was kind of upset and said, why didn't I pass to the next round? I said, because you didn't pop. And knowing that I'm a waiver, he said, because he waved.
Mhm.
I said, you didn't pop. And he
Mhm.
looked at me and he goes, and he kind of thought about it. And then he just walked away. And I said, because you didn't.
Yeah.
If you just did this and understanding, if this is a popping battle, you got to pop for me once.
You got to play the game. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I put you through. I have to be real with that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, don't call it a popping battle. Call it a
Yes.
boogaloo battle.
Absolutely.
Because a boogaloo battle is more of an umbrella,
Hmm.
in my opinion.
Hmm. Let's go to your event because I'm gonna tell you and again, Miss Funk and I, it is a very like pivotal moment. I remember Freestyle Session. I remember B-Boy Summit. That's when I first started in the early 2000s. But I will say how the West was won when you had it in Hollywood. I would say it was a very like pivotal and iconic moment for the both of us of like this is what we really want to do because I felt like you did provide that platform to show multiple things, and I feel even within the judges that you brought in, but just the community that you brought in because I didn't just see, the EBs. I saw the EBs. I saw Bop and Andre. I saw the Playboy fam. I saw the Boppers. I saw the Robots. I saw everybody, the Tutters. And if I'm not mistaken, I think even the first person to win that was Pandora.
I think so.
Pandora, she won, like she took out all of the dudes,
And
but
wasn't that if you would have thought about it and like predicted that, you probably wouldn't have predicted that.
not at all.
Knowing
I'm
who the
seeing
judges were.
Salah.
Yeah.
I'm seeing at that time Salah, J Rock,
Well,
Kid Boogie, J Smooth.
from my memory, the first one, because we wanted to, our thing was to go back to the groups. So we did a group one,
You
and it was the
did.
Little Boogs, I think, that won the first
Yes,
one. But the
Unico and
original, the
Sean.
one-on-one was the girl. Yeah, it was
Yes,
Pandora.
yes, and I just remember just being amazed by what was in under one roof. You know what I mean? Did you have that vision of like this is what you wanted to bring, or it just organically
So
happens?
Gerardo and I went to an event. Gosh, was it B-Boy Summit or was it Crescendo? Remember Crescendo's events? Do you remember those?
Yes.
So there was one at the downtown club they used to call the Shark Club. It used to be so many different names, but there was a thing. There was a club. We went in there. Gerardo said we walked in and we said, "Dude, popping's kind of back. Look at this." And Wiggles was there, and I remember seeing Flowmaster, and then that's actually where the Slick Dog and the Groovatrons showed up, all suited up, and they actually danced. I think I remember having it on tape. They did like a little showcase, like just wanted to get down.
Really?
And I was there, and like everybody was there, and it's like Gerardo goes, bro. And that's the time Gerardo was working as he was working at Interscope Records, and he says, I got an idea. Let's talk next week. And the idea was to like, let's do an event.
Hmm.
And it's like, let's do our own and let's put up some money. I can get the sponsors. But his thing was like, let's go back to the back in the days. It was about groups. Let's do the group thing. Before we wanted to do soloists, we wanted to go groups. So
Gotcha.
that was the idea. And we wanted to just jump on it and just have another venue to, another avenue
Yeah.
for people to come and do. And we provided a lot of money. We made nothing, by the
Yeah, you
way.
did.
We
Those were big
gave
cash
like,
prizes.
what
I
was it,
remember
like
that.
25, 30, almost 50 grand that went straight from sponsor straight to the winners. And like, I think every time we finished, I said, what do we got in the bank? What's left for us? And it was like, here you go. Here's 500 for you and 500 for me for Christmas. And then afterwards, I remember my daughter, she goes, Dad, you go through so much stress with this. And I'm like, yeah, I'm done. This is the last one. Not because of that. It was
Yeah,
more
yeah,
just
yeah.
because it's a lot of work,
It's a lot of
as you
work.
well know.
Absolutely.
But then my daughter said, boy, you're a glutton for punishment because the next year is like, let's do it again. And it's like dealing with I'm sorry, I'll say it, all the dancers, some of the people
The
just
BS,
dealing with
yeah, yeah.
the personalities.
The
And it's just
drama,
like,
yeah.
some people that are like, some are passed already that I had to deal with, got hung up on, and
Yeah.
my phone looking at it said, boy, they've been going for an hour and 15 minutes, and like till my battery died talking to one person. I'm just like,
Wow.
this is just traumatizing.
Yeah.
I should be in a
Yeah.
hospital now.
Yeah.
But
No. You did what, about 4 or 5 of them, or
we did well we
was it
did
3?
the fourth one.
Was in like Orange
Okay,
County,
so
right?
no. So the last one at the Henry Fonda was because I remember it was How the West was won four, and I kind of did a thing play off it saying four Skeet because it's after Skeet passed.
Uh-huh, that's
And then
right.
we tried to do one in Orange County, which I didn't like the idea, but they wanted to do it, so I said fine, and I really wasn't into it. And then we did a couple that we did with Freestyle Session at it was a connection with
Yes.
them that where we
Yes.
still called it How the West was won, and
That's
then after
right.
that, I think we did one where we just didn't name it How the West was won, and they wanted us to do it like um, uh, Devious does for them now, like kind of just run their pop-in
Got
event.
you.
And
Got
then
you.
because we knew Polo from Gerardo worked with Polo at Interscope, so uh, we did that. That's how we had that connection there.
Wow. Yeah, I think the one of them that you when you worked with Freestyle Session, that's when Miss Funk and the ladies beat us Sobotics in the crew battle. But we'll talk about that off camera, guys. Um, um, in terms of the events, in terms of what you're seeing, um, do you like where it's going? Do you enjoy this journey of where you're at in your life? Because I do look at you as a pioneer. I look at you as a trailblazer. I know you like, and we talked about this a little bit in Geneva, where you've always been a part of it, but you also took yourself out because you rather when you had a family, you wanted to get a job that maybe paid just more consistency, et cetera, et cetera. Or is it because simply you just wanted to do a lot of everything?
My my goal was to most of the people that I ran with in the 80s, our goal was to use dancing because we knew that there was no longevity with dancing.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, but that's just what we saw. We saw that if you wanted to make more money or get a career, you have to like navigate towards music or something behind the scenes or a choreography. It was either you're going to be an actor, which a lot of dancers became actors.
Yeah.
I had some little bits in acting. I had an agent that was trying to get me to go to acting classes, and I went to one, and I said, I'm just not in love with acting. And I read for some parts, and I had some things, and I'm just like, I just didn't feel it, so I didn't want to go that route. Um, but it was to use dancing as a stepping stone to get to something else. That was what we wanted to do. Um, uh, I that was the people that we were with. Pete and those guys, they had a singing group. I had a singing group.
Mm-hmm.
I always loved music. There was a connection there. And then no, then what happened is that we took the dancing as far as it could here in the States. It died. Hip hop and breaking, we were competing with breaking. Okay.
Okay.
Breaking was the biggest thing. And it was like, man, they forgot about us, the stepchildren, the poppers. We were just like, now we were in the back. If you remember freestyle session, poppers and lockers always had the back room,
Yeah,
right?
even still to this day.
Yeah, to
Yeah,
this day.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
that's fine.
yeah.
So then we try to do our little music gig. I was just talking about that the other day. I saw this video that we shot, and I'm like, yeah, I just was a realist. We gave it a little bit of time. We invested some money, and it didn't work. And then it's like move on to the next thing. But when it died, basically, I did have a background in art, and my children were born, and I didn't want to be that visiting dad where I had to go. Like I had a plan B, and a lot of my friends, unfortunately, didn't, so they had to go overseas, which was a blessing for me because they got work and said, "Hey, we need you in France or this and that." So I went and I didn't know I was going to be there long, and I went to go do a design job for Anheuser-Busch. And I go, I want to stay here. I want to take care of my kids. I don't want somebody else taking care of them. So I stayed, but ironically, the very next year, I remember, which was it was actually a pivotal show, and we can talk about that later, but we went to Paris, to the north of France, and we went to the ghetto areas and we did a showcase. It was myself, Freeze, Sundance. We took a young DJ at the time that's famous now, Z Trip, who I think he DJ'd for like LL Cool J or some other people.
Oh wow.
Kind of famous guy now. Jazzy J and I did a routine, and then Sugar Pop came along, and all these people came, and even till today, I hear like Bruce and Waleed and Storm tell me that that's like when we first really saw street dancing in Paris and this and that. It was very important for us. At least that's what they told me. And we did the showcase and we taught some classes and we went to go visit the community, like kids in the ghetto, and like tell them how like, hey, dancing can help you stay away from drugs and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And then every year after that, the director liked me and they got along with me and said, can you come do some classes? And I went every year while I was working at Anheuser-Busch, and I would just do just do a little bit. And then as my kids got older, my daughter would say, Dad, go more, go do it. And I was like,
Oh.
okay. So then I started going more, and I would get invited to other places. And then I kind of felt like Scarface, where like, oh, they keep pulling me back in. Like,
Yeah,
do I live my regular life or do I do this?
yeah, yeah.
And I will tell you, I wasn't practicing because when I'd go and I had to teach a week-long classes, they would laugh at me. We're walking at the mall, walking down the steps like this, and I'm sore, and I'm
Messed
like,
up.
I got to figure something out here. And anyway, then Skeet would say, bro, I need to get you to Korea to teach. So I went to Korea. I was teaching some artists, some singing artists there. He would send me there and got to know them. Then he says, hey, I need you to come to China with us with the EBs, and we did a show. Um, all that to say, it's like I I started my daughter. I would have conversations with my daughter Brianna, and I said like, Brianna, I gotta figure something out. If either I'm gonna do this or I'm not. I'm gonna
Yeah,
keep doing this.
yeah.
And as I said, and there was other gigs. I did a thing called Dance Monster from Japan that Skeet set up, where it was a kind of like a documentary slash teaching tutorial thing. Was famous in Japan. I just said like I can't. I either got to start practicing again, and get back into it, because my body can't just be doing this off and on stuff. And that was pivotal during How the Was One, because when I met Machine Gun Funk, they would say, "Can you come? Jay Smooth, can you show me some stuff?" So I went down there, and Kid Boogie showed me some stuff, and those guys actually started getting me training, where
Mhm.
we'd sweat and do rounds, and I started getting my
Dang.
body back in shape to do it, and that's when I started getting like better and better again, and it's like learning to train my body to dance again,
Yeah.
and that was pivotal for me. But so I wanted to work and I was happy that way. And I kind of tell people that I kind of had like a Clark Kent identity where like I
Yeah.
worked and then all my vacation time, because I had a lot of vacation time, I traveled. I booked stuff and I had everything set up and I did it smart where like I would go to China for 2 weeks or I would work a long week, do a long weekend. And I mean, I remember sometimes I'd get off the plane at 6 a.m. and go right to work. And I did that for the longest time and I was able to do that. I don't buy into the philosophy where like, no, if you're true to your craft and you want to be a dancer, you should not get a regular job. And I say, BS, who says that?
Yeah.
You could do what you want.
Absolutely.
I wanted to have insurance and I like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's talk
And
about
a
that. Yeah.
401k and I like that.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
then after a while, I've changed jobs, but it's like, and I don't have to go. At that point, I went partially because I loved it, but then it did make me extra money, and I wanted to buy property, and I did. And um, now I'm in a position where I don't need to dance. I don't need that. Now I can cherry pick, so to speak. I never turned down a job before because I wanted to try to do that.
Yeah.
I get invited like a lot right now, and over through COVID,
And as you should.
through COVID, I was teaching online. I just got bored of teaching online. It's just
Yeah.
so difficult.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
And so I say I'm blessed because people still come visit me. I've been asked to teach at like Millennium or something like that. And it's like, I just don't want to draw. I go, Kid Boogie, you do it.
Yeah.
You guys do it.
Yeah.
This is your era. We can
Yes.
just guide and help. And if you have questions, I'm here. But it's your guys' era.
And what I love about what you're saying too, and you said this when we were having breakfast in Geneva. You definitely didn't mind handing other people work or opportunities.
Why
And I
not?
think
They did
that's
it to
really
me.
big because I'll be honest, in the street dance world, it's almost like I'm gonna grab and hold on to whatever I can because it's like a scarcity, right? And I don't know if that's because you did have a secure job at the time, or maybe it's just the humble personality that you come from, or who you are. But I have to say and just acknowledge it that to me, that's just something that's admiring because again, I know there's so many people that do deserve these opportunities, but a lot of people, whether they're our elders or our peers or even the next generation to come up, they feel like they're never going to get this opportunity, so they're holding on to it for as long as possible.
In the early years, like 18, 19, 20 years old, it was like dog eat dog.
Yeah,
Here's our work. We're doing this. We didn't share it.
got you.
Because back then was all different. We didn't have I wasn't like a person that was a member of 12 groups like there are people nowadays. And
Yes,
I jokingly
yes.
pick on people about that. Like, you can't be a part of three
You can't
groups.
be
What are you
on two
doing?
basketball teams.
You can't
Exactly.
be
Yeah.
on the Lakers and play for the Knicks.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
but anyway, do what you want. But it's like, but if you're staying in that crew mode, I actually think a little bit of like, I joke with people. I said, you're in a group and you're 40 years old. What are you in a gang?
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, I said no. But then like even in the 90s and 2000s, we weren't really sharing work. It was just like
Okay.
there's a lot of people I know. There's a lot of people that I knew just from seeing at places, and hey, we knew who we were. But I think we didn't hang out. We weren't like buddies. I mean, yeah, I would get phone calls from like a person like Robot Prince on a weekly because I think he thought that I was in the music business. We were dabbling in it, and that he was trying to get music to me to get to people. I remember I had to remind Damon Frost of this years ago when Damon Frost was working at sorry, forgive me, Damon, but I did say this on Alpha's thing. Before anybody knew who he was, he would call me every morning from when he was working at a bike shop in the Bay Area. What's going on in LA? What are you guys doing and stuff like that? And I said, you need to just come up here. So one time he came up here and I took him out to the palace and let people see him. And it's like him I knew. Like there's certain people, but it
Yeah.
didn't mean just because we're all from the same area that we were all buddies and having lunch together.
Yeah.
No, those guys had their clique and their people and stuff like that. And that's what it was. But Damon, he called me one day and said like, hey, I got this gig. We're going to Switzerland to go do a show. And it's with this other guy from New York. And at the time, Chernobyl exploded. And on the news, it says, be careful when you go to Switzerland because you got to smell
Oh
you got to be
wow.
affected.
Yeah.
So I chose not to go. And Damon went and he never came
Never
back.
came
If you know anything
back.
about
Stayed
Damon,
out there.
he
Yeah.
stayed
Yeah.
there.
Wow.
And that's just my path. But like, and I remember I brought it up at a interview thing we did. And he goes, gosh, I forgot about all that. And it's like, you
That's
used to call me
crazy.
from the bike shop when you worked there and stuff like that. It's like, I knew all these people from a long time ago, like certain folks. But No, now it's different. Like I got people that, well, my group or my clique, like Skeet was me and Skeet were so close. Like he'd always like want me to show. Skeet was one person that wanted to show everybody. He would even say, he goes, it's not about me or the EBs. I want to show everybody. If you think about that, if you saw their show they did in Vegas years ago,
Mm-hmm.
they had the Bay Area dancers up there. They had the Japanese, dancers up there as well. Like he wanted to share. He truly did. Um, Nowadays, when I couldn't go to places, of course, I had this one Chinese promoter, and like when I said I don't want to, I want to take a break, and I said, oh, if I showed you the text, can you get this person? Who can you get this person? And I said, I've been trying to get Flat Top to go over there for years. I think I've hired Bop and Andre and sent him over, trying to get Cobra over there, and it's like, anybody they can get. I mean, I got Future to do some stuff I mean, anybody they wanted. I said,
Mm-hmm.
let me get a hold of them. I know people, and I got them to go over there. And I was just passing them on.
Mm-hmm.
Work,
Mm-hmm.
get your work on.
Yeah.
Because now it's different because it's not um, like I said, I can pick and choose where I want to go if I get
Absolutely.
invited. If I'm blessed to get invited, I don't. If you notice, my Instagram has been very much like I told my years ago before COVID. You promote yourself. If people see you, they say, "Hey, he's alive. He's dancing. Let's
Yeah.
get him over here."
Yeah.
I don't promote myself anymore. Um, I just I thought about it like putting myself out there. I used to put a lot of practice videos out there, and it's like
Yeah, I remember. I
if they
used to
don't
watch
see
them
you,
all.
if they don't see you, they figure you're either dead or you're in jail, and they
Mm-hmm.
can't bring you. So it's like, but I've been busy, and I'm still kind of. This might sound weird to you, but like I used to tell people, like, oh, at 60, I'm done. I'm quitting. I'm
Wow.
retiring from dancing, and then I get mad and I see like Pop and Pete at his age still going. I'm like this. And I go, should I keep going? And it's like, and then people around me saying, Dad, it keeps you young. Just keep doing it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, but if I got to do it, I got to go practice and be in shape because I don't want to go and just expect them to give me money for just showing up. I
I
don't
hear
like
that.
that,
I hear that. Yeah.
So
Let's talk about your style because for me when I see you I feel like you can do it all. I feel like you can do the popping, the boogaloo, the waving, timing changes, textures. How did you embark on that? Or was it just through time? Was it through your own training? Was it through any influence? Was it somebody like Taco or just seeing or being around, all of these generations and eras? Well, maybe like what was your inspiration to find your signature style?
everything that I do and what you do is what you've seen and what's been an influence on you.
Yes.
Um, and you can't change that. And our body shapes are all different and the way we feel music and stuff. Originally, I still think about my teachers back in high school. I still remember before I started popping when I was young, and I was in the living room and I saw Mechanical Device on the Gong Show, and that freaked me out. And I always had a likening to dime stops and robotics and stuff. But my teachers, I was blessed that in the dance sense that uh, Pop and Magic was Larry Houston. He was more like he just pop, hair shaking, did twisto flexes and stuff like that. A little bit of waving, but then his brother did more like tick waves and puppeting and very just sharp angles. And I
Yeah.
said, so I got a little bit of a different view there. And then Boogaloo Daryl was very loose and he just did all these crazy waves and stuff.
Mhm.
So that influenced me. Then I met Taco, and Taco was just so strong hitting and robotic with his stuff, and he taught me like the animation type with the popping and waving. And it's like when I met him, I don't believe aside from Shrimp anybody was doing that. It was either they were
Okay.
popping and they stopped and did a wave, they set up a wave. But
Okay.
Taco influenced on me, and I feel like we did that. We used to go to the Palace and sit in the corner by the stage and just dance and dance and dance. And
Wow.
instead of just a wave like this, he taught me like like tick it and pop with it and make it like put a robotics onto the wave.
Hmm.
And if you look back, it might have been kind of in a corny type of thing. But if you look at like the Hollywood Boulevard of us dancing, you saw it there.
Yeah.
Show me somebody else before that where you saw that. You can see a dime stop, but you didn't
Yeah.
see like this aside from Shrimp. I'll say that because Shrimp was still hanging out with Taco too. But Shrimp, I think Shrimp got, and we could talk about this Shrimp. I think he got a little bit. Um, there was a little bit of a jealousy, and this is what Taco told me
Hmm.
because when Shrimp saw that, hey, you're friends with Taco now, um, we can go back to, and I don't care. We can talk about
Please,
this.
yeah.
I knew Shrimp first. There was a contest in El Monte. I can't remember where it was, and Taco was there. I'd never seen him before. He was just wearing a regular T-shirt. He wasn't fancied up or anything, and it was a group popping battle. So I was there with my two of my crew members. We were wearing suits with ties, and we did a show. I mean, we did a battle, and then Shrimp was there just with Taco, I think, and we won. I wasn't the judge. I think they did like a crowd thing or something, and from that, uh, and I can verify this. From that, supposedly Taco told me that Shrimp said, "Oh, that Mexican dude Hugo, he said that he's better than you and you suck or something like that, something like that." So I was like, which I never said.
Uh-huh.
And then, if you know Gar High School, they would have dances there, and I went one time with some friends, and I think maybe one of my crew members, but I didn't go. I think I shouldn't have been drinking. I think I had a beer or something, but I was remember just like looking around. We were girl searching.
Hmm.
And I remember I see this guy, and I didn't know at the time it was Sugar Pop. He had this big old red hair and stuff, short hair. And I remember looking inside a popping circle, and I look, and it was Taco.
Hmm.
And I didn't know who he was really. I didn't remember him from the last thing, but I looked, and I remember one thing. He was dancing, and he was doing it Taco style, but he was doing footwork. And my teachers didn't do that. A lot of poppers in LA originally, I call them Frankenstein poppers. I don't like it. I teach people that I work with,
Uh-huh.
move your feet because they pop like this and their legs are very straight. Shuffle or move or do something.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I saw Taco doing the EB kind of like crazy legs stuff like Pete does, and I was like, damn, that's cool. At the same time, Taco later told me he's actually was looking towards me, saying in his voice, I couldn't hear you saying, get some, get some. So he was calling me out.
Wow.
And at the same time, Sugar Pop says he was walking around saying, "Are you Hugo? Are you Hugo?" He didn't say it to me. I didn't know. And I just looked and I said, "Huh," and I just kept walking about my business. So the next time I saw Taco was like I went to the radio when it was called the radio, not the Radiotron. This
Hmm.
is pre when everybody blew up and started
Wow.
showing.
Okay.
It's when like Madonna used to go and hang out there and different people because I used to be in a group with Ice-T. So I was the original radio crew with Ice-T. Me and Ice-T used to hang out all the time. We used to do shows.
Oh my gosh.
So
That's crazy.
so I would go down there all the time, let me in, and I saw Taco sitting there, and he looks up at me and he goes, "Hey," he goes, "Are you Hugo?" And I said, "Yeah, you're Taco." And he goes, "Yeah." And he was the nicest to today. I mean, I cried at his funeral and said he's the nicest person I've ever met. And he wasn't. He told me what Shrimp told him, and we talked. And I said, "No, I never said that, man." I go, I think you dance. I saw your footwork. I thought you were cool and this and that. Instantly, we became friends. He gave me his number. He said, "Call me tomorrow. Let's practice." And I still have a picture from the next day. I went to his house, and it's a funny another story where a lot of people used to come over there, from Deuce to the Time Bandits and different people, because they wanted to show off and show Bruno what they had, and he wanted to
Uh-huh.
practice. But Taco and I always had closed garage door sessions,
Uh-huh.
and we were friends. And then when Shrimp saw that, like, oh, like my plan didn't work to hate Hugo, I was like, they're friends now
Uh-huh.
and they're hanging out and they're dancing, and Taco we became brothers ever since. Anyway, long story short, Shrimp, that's when I think Shrimp went and tried to create his own group, and that's when he got, like, he would call it the LA Fancy Dancers or something like that.
Okay.
He had like Cosmo, Tic Tac, uh Boardman, Ace Rock, although
Wow.
yeah, that was his crew. That's why they followed him to Breaking 2.
Got you.
And when we did
Okay.
Breaking 2, it was just like it was a salad bowl of dancers just all over the
Yeah.
place.
Yeah. What was it? Was it like you and Taco representing as the Latinos and the and through the Mexican culture? What was it like? Because I know it definitely was probably predominantly black, definitely heavy with that in a sense of just and even in crews or whatnot. And you have the EBs and so what was it like growing up through the dance as Latinos and being innovative? Because I don't want to just say growing up through the dance and this and that. You guys were innovative. You, Taco, you guys set the platform for a lot of people, specifically the Latinx, community.
I wish I can show you, and we could do it another segment. Like when I grew up, you had Whittier Boulevard, okay? You had the uptown and downtown. So there was a certain portion of Whittier Boulevard we used to go, and you saw a lot of the Latino poppers. They'd wear the fedora hats, the white gloves, and all that stuff, and they'd do a certain style of popping, which back then it was fitting, but I looked at it like at a primitive style of popping
Okay.
because the way I came up, I felt like I saw the raw, real deal. Like I saw some hard stuff, and by the time I got to taco, part of me sometimes is like, I saw that. Yeah, you're right. Like you believe me, there was like one token white guy in the scene, and his name was Rubber Band Man from Orange County. If he hears my name and he's still alive, you guys should talk. That guy was around all the time. He wore a suit all the time, bright red hair, but can snake and pop and do stuff. Then the Sterling Silver dancers, black, but they had one guy, Danny, that used to pop, and he was good. So you had a few
Okay.
Latinos, very few, same thing. You had a lot of Asians, you had Filipinos, you had a lot of Samoans when you went to St. John's Hall, and
Sure.
me and Cobra battled. That's how we first met.
Wow.
And like now he was skinny back then, so we bumped into each other. We almost got in a fight.
Really?
Yeah, but I saw that. Um, there's a whole thing about saying like, oh, it's only a black thing and things like that. Like maybe in certain areas you saw majority black, but no, I felt like, man, you're good if the non-Hispanics respect you. Like the blacks kind of, I'll keep it real. Black people, when Taco would get down, they'd be like,
Messing
yeah,
with him.
yeah,
Yeah,
no, I don't
yeah,
want to, whoa, damn,
yeah.
like that kind of stuff. And I said, that shows it's respect.
Absolutely.
He got down, he got down. Um, Even when like Sam and them saw him, even Pete would say, like, when I was like, you guys, look at this guy. He's
Hmm.
incredible.
Hmm.
He was incredible. But so then I never went back. Like then when I did see like I just never went to like an all Latin thing. Like the last few times that I remember I didn't even dance, and it was a all Latino thing in La Puente. And one of the guy that showed me originally, he goes, "I know you're better than that. Get out!" And he pushed me out there, and I
Oh,
battled this kid, this popper Mexican kid, and like he just bowed down. And it's like because I never really I don't know. I wasn't really. I know this is kind of like an oxymoron for dancers because I believe all dancers are show offs. I
mhm.
never really was a show off, and I think you have to have a little bit of a cockiness in you to go on and battle and do things
Sure,
like that.
sure.
I don't I don't have too much of that in me. I'm a little bit more humble.
Hmm.
Um, uh, that's why I don't like
Got
show
you.
off and mouth off
Got
and
you.
like I'm gonna do
Yeah,
this and watch me.
yeah, yeah,
That's typically the popping mentality
yeah.
to some
For
degree.
sure,
Yeah.
for sure, for sure. Uh, because I know we're talking about Taco. Was Taco already? Was he already that figure in the community before he met and saw the EBs? Like, or was that kind of already happening at the same time when he was mixing with the EBs? Like again, somebody like Mr. Wiggles, he was already Mr. Wiggles before he got into EBs, but then after that, I feel like the platform for him was even larger, you
There's
know?
when I met Taco, he was incredible, and I think that happened like the EBs in him. Like he went to school with Pete's younger brother,
Oh,
so
okay.
that's how they had the connection
Got
with
you.
Decky, and then Decky told Pete, "You got to see this dude," and but he was already good.
Uh-huh.
So he just learned the EB way when he met them, and that was prior to me, like right before me. And it's a little difficult for me to say because even later on in Taco's later years, when I tried to get information from him, if you know Taco's situation, it was really hard to
Yeah.
get information.
Yeah.
So I try to get a timeline. It just, did you know this person? Who'd you learn from? This and that is just really hard. But from my understanding, he was already like I asked his cousin, how good was he before he met them? He was already getting down. He was good, but he learned the EB flair.
Hmm.
Like he would want to learn their moves, their signature moves, so to
Hmm.
speak. Um, but that's one thing I have to say. I talk about this humbleness and sharing. Taco was. It didn't matter. He was always telling people, encourage, man, you're getting down. That's great,
Yeah.
and trying to share and do things like that. He was such a great guy about that. Me especially. He wanted to give me everything. Anything I needed. Like here's get an agent. Do this. He wanted me to go with him places and be a part of what he's doing.
Mm.
And then when he had to leave town, he'd say, tell like Sugar Pop or somebody, hang out with Sugar, like here, take care of him while I'm gone. He was like my bigger brother.
Got you.
He was a little bit older, and I just kind of went under his shadow. But being Latino, like I I seem to like kind of like be more comfortable around my black friends than the Latino crowd because you go to some of the Latino places, they're a little bit dangerous. There's people. I mean, Gerardo got stabbed at a Latino thing, and it's
Wow.
like I just didn't
Wow.
like that kind of stuff,
Hmm.
and I just wanted to go where like let's just go dance and have fun. Um, but no, there was a thing like when you got respected by, like the black community or something like that, it says something, you know? Uh, and same, if you saw like somebody like, I would say somebody like a J-Rock that comes in, a white guy coming in into like, like community that's more like
Hmm.
urban, that says something. When I first saw him, I said like, that dude can get down.
Mm.
What somebody else might say like, oh, look at that or this and
Hmm.
that or whatever. It's like, man, you know what? We all come from the same color. It's like just as if you can get down, you can get down.
Yeah.
Stop looking at the color,
Love
you
that.
know?
Love that.
Um, I don't uh I'm not like of that like, oh, the raza is getting better and this and that.
Yeah.
I just look at people for people, because I've met so many different people from all over the place. Like I just want to show them what I know,
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
all.
Throughout all of your traveling, whether it's performing, battling, judging, what is like a bucket list for you to go to? What is the next country that you would love to go to, whether you want to share or just be a part of the culture through dance?
Well, I do have some, and I had some communication with some places that kind of it didn't work out because I was on my way to India.
Mm.
They had everything ready, and COVID hit. Can't go there. And then they were gonna have me come after that, but oh my God, the flight. I'm sorry, I did put on
Oh,
my privilege hat on at that point. I'm not gonna fly 30 hours,
no.
and I said no, I can't. I'm sorry. And then I was talking to this one kid for a long time, and I understand. And it wasn't about the money. I still want to try to connect with them. He tried to get me over to Egypt to teach.
Okay.
So that Egypt's on my bucket list out of everywhere I've been to. I've kind of been everywhere else. I've not taught in Italy, but I do have a connection there. And I took my family to Italy. We went to Italy a couple years ago, just as
Hmm.
first time as tourists actually
Oh,
going somewhere. It
wow.
felt weird. But um, I don't like to push myself onto people. If somebody wants me and they know I'm somewhere and they want to ask, then cool. You
Gotcha.
know, um, I don't have, I don't know that I have a dance bucket list anymore, to be quite honest.
Okay.
I lied. My I'm being requested, or we talked about the idea. Everybody puts stuff on TikTok. Like
Hmm.
Flo does all this TikTok stuff all the time.
Hmm.
So we want to put a little fun one together. So I guess I can say that's a bucket list.
Okay.
Places, no, I want to go to Thailand. I haven't been there. Um, uh, I they call me part Japanese because I like going to Japan. So
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
try I try to go back there as many times as I can.
And to wrap it up, what is the advice you can give not just to a pop or a waver, but just to a street dancer from all of your experience throughout these years of performing, battling, judging, teaching? What is some advice that you can give them that can just inspire them to keep going in today's time?
I believe in foundation, not only in dance, we use it in dance a lot, but in life. When I thought about a couple of things like this and how this could be answered. You as Versatile, you guys have a team of people, right? I looked on your
Yes.
website and I feel like whether you're in a group alone or on a team or a company or whatnot, if you have one person having issues and stuff like that or having problems, it's not your responsibility just to teach them dance, but it's your responsibility to teach them how to be a good human being.
Hmm.
And that means you take them under your wing as a mentor and you teach them life and how to be good people because this could open up another conversation at another time, but we have lot of dysfunctional people in street dancing
Yeah,
as a whole. And there's a lot of problems. And there's not just street dancing, you have it in sports, you have it in different things.
absolutely.
I don't like it. And you asked a question earlier, like why I wasn't around and certain things, because I wanted to get away from some of the politics and the stupidity that I don't want to, that I can't deal with. Whether it's alcohol or somebody doing bad things to women, which we've had that conversation before, or treating people or fighting or whatnot. I don't like that stuff. Anybody that knows me, I do not accept that stuff. It's irresponsible. But then it's also irresponsible for me to be in a group with somebody and if I see a weaker person and they're weak minded and they don't have their life together, then you know what? Let's put the dance aside for a second. Let me go to them and tell them, hey, we need to get your act together, to be a good human first before you can be a good dancer. So you could be a great dancer and suck at life,
Mhm.
suck financially. and suck in your personality or your relationships with people. I say, you know, some dancers don't have good families and foundation to start from, and I think we need to be kind of mindful of that, because if that's uneven and then you get money and fame, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
We can see the logical conclusion. They're going to have a bad future.
Yeah.
So I think that it's just like what I told like MT Pop and I've told other people is like, hey, do you have a plan B for your life in case dancing doesn't work out for you? If it doesn't provide for you, what do you want long term? Do you want a family? Do you want a girlfriend or a wife or kids? Because if you want those things, this might not pan out for you. What's your future? Have you studied to do this? Do you want to take classes to do what? Because if you have this false idea that traveling and I'll call it out. Some people portrayed this whole thing making it seem like this is going to make you rich.
Yeah.
Well, you're painting a false picture. You know, I can go to China too and get a bunch of false fake Gucci stuff and make it think like I'm making a lot of money.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you something that doesn't make you a lot of money. It can. Look at the select few that can, with the hustle,
Yep.
make some money, but you're not paying taxes. You ain't got a 401k, and you got to pay your own medical insurance. And like and to be more serious, like I have a passion for some things. Like I've had to go raise money to bury people or get a cremation because they don't have any money when they're dancers. They worked all their lives dancing and they have nothing. And we've seen this a lot.
Yeah.
And how do we change that? I don't know. It's not like I can change it, but education and getting people to like go to school and finish school and stuff like that. There's a lot there, but I mean, you have to get educated. You have to get learn a craft, and don't just think it's fun to have a laptop because you want to have a laptop or a fancy iPhone. Let it work for you to make you money. Get in the industry. Just because you're a street dancer doesn't mean you can't go work commercially. That's another thing. People say like, no, commercial. This is real street dance. What's wrong? We did it. Pete did it. Everybody did it. We did commercials. We did whatever, and to make money because we were out to try to make a living. Anyway, educate yourself. Find yourself a good mentor or a group of people that'll guide you and help guide you and tell you the truth, and be willing to accept the truth. If you're doing something wrong, be accountable for your actions.
Absolutely.
You know.
Hugo, Mr. Smooth, thank you so much, man. Thank you for sharing your time today. Really appreciate it. I have a feeling we're going to have a part 2 with him very, very soon, just about these conversations, elaborating more. Because, again, the last few gems that he shared are something that I think a lot of just dancers and professionals and just people in life need to listen to, especially from people that have lived the life, have the experience. So, again, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Really honored to have you. And
Thank you.
yeah, thank you, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.